Welcome to Empowering the Educator Within, the podcast that brings practical ideas, powerful reflections, and a spark of inspiration to your teaching journey. I'm Christina Shala, and in today's episode, we're diving into the heart of early years education, where children's interests lead the way, and learning is a living, evolving experience. This episode is inspired by a vision I had when I set out to design a custom framework, one that combines the Reggio-Emilia philosophy, EYFS milestones, and C4 benchmarks for language learning. It's a framework built not only to guide teachers, but to bring together students, specialists, and school leaders into one cohesive learning community through a shared set of individualized planners. The centerpiece of this framework is a class planner designed specifically for mainstream teachers. It includes 3 main sections, each one helping to capture and support emergent learning in a different way. Let's walk through each part, starting with the section called Class Inquiry. Let's start with the core challenge that inspired the framework. How do we document an emergent curriculum? How do we capture something fluid and evolving while still supporting deep inquiry and child-led learning? To answer that, imagine the first section of the class planner designed specifically for mainstream teachers. Picture a long, flexible row stretching across the page. There's no set start or end date, just space for learning to unfold, guided by the children's interests and discoveries. This section is called Class Inquiry. It begins with documenting students' interests, maybe buildings, water, or how things move. At this stage, anything goes. It's a space to freely capture ideas and curiosities, knowing that these initial sparks will inform and inspire the planning of defined spaces and teacher-led activities later on. Right next to that, you note the EYFS milestones you anticipate might emerge. These aren't fixed outcomes, they're possibilities to observe. By having them in mind, you're better equipped to recognize and document student growth when it happens, because you know what to look for and you're ready to capture it in action. Then comes the section for Reggio-Inspired provocations, a place for teachers to brainstorm ideas before designing the learning environment. Here, you might list books, images, natural objects, creative materials, or open-ended questions that could spark curiosity and guide how the space is set up. What makes this planner truly unique is the column labeled Inquiry Language. It's a space for teachers to brainstorm how language will be woven into the inquiry, from key vocabulary and expressions to the choice of language itself, whether English, a foreign language, or a child's home language. It's language learning embedded naturally in context, shaped by the inquiry's direction. Because inquiry is never linear, these sections repeat as the exploration grows. You revisit milestones, adjust provocations, and guide new directions. The planner expands until the inquiry fades and a new one begins. Even though it's labeled Class Inquiry, the same process applies to individuals or small groups. It's all about following learning where it wants to go. Now, imagine turning to the next section of the class planner. This one is all about defined spaces within the classroom. This part invites you to take a closer look at the physical environment, not just as a setting, but as a participant in the learning. Building on the brainstorm provocations from the previous section, this is where teachers refine those ideas and decide how best to translate them into defined spaces. Picture the classroom as a living landscape, filled with areas like the water table, a cozy book nook, or a collection of loose parts. Each space is shaped by what you've observed about your students' interests. Next to those observations, you jot down the EYFS milestones you anticipate might emerge. Perhaps in communication, early math, or physical coordination. These aren't rigid goals, but inform possibilities. By having them in mind, you're better equipped to recognize and document student growth when it happens, because you know what to look for and you're ready to capture it in action. Then comes the planning for provocations and materials. What will you place in the space? How will it be arranged to invite exploration? Some children may engage exactly as you imagined. Others may surprise you entirely. Either way, it's an opportunity to document, reflect, and adapt. And just like before, you think intentionally about language. What words might children hear, say, or read in this space? Which language will you model? English, their home language, or perhaps a foreign one? This becomes part of your inquiry language planning. At the end of the row, there's a space for general observations, a place to note how the environment is functioning and when it might be time to evolve. Because in a Reggio-Inspired classroom, the space is never static. It shifts, flexes, and grows alongside the learning. Finally, imagine flipping to the third section of the planner, teacher-led activities. This part is where structure meets flexibility. It's designed for moments when you want to guide learning more intentionally, particularly in areas like literacy or numeracy, without losing the spirit of inquiry. Start by imagining a group of students gathered on the carpet. You've thought ahead to the EYFS milestones they might reach and prepared a few materials to provoke thought, maybe a storybook, number cards, or a hands-on math game. In the next column, you've outlined your provocations and tools, but you're not locked in. If the children shift the direction, so can you. And again, you plan for language. What vocabulary will you introduce? What expressions might emerge? Whether the activity is teacher-led or student-driven, language is an integral part of the experience. This section of the planner reminds us that guidance and exploration don't have to be opposites. When used well, they can work hand in hand, ensuring that every structured moment still leaves room for curiosity, voice, and discovery. So, how do we bring this philosophy beyond the core classroom? Too often we hear, our classroom is Reggio-inspired, but then the children go to music or PE, and it's a completely different world. That disconnect can undermine the whole approach. This framework addresses that by looping in the specialists. Each specialist planner starts with a space for the classroom teacher to share current inquiries. From there, music, library, and PE teachers can design activities, provocations, and even vocabulary that connect back to classroom investigations. Even if a direct link isn't possible, the point is awareness. When opportunities arise, learning can be extended naturally. And when it's not connected, specialists still have the tools to create their own Reggio-aligned provocations and language goals. Now, imagine stepping beyond the classroom walls. What if the outdoor space wasn't just for movement and recess, but became an extension of your learning environment? That's the purpose of the Outdoor Area Planner. It's where all teachers come together to share the inquiries happening indoors so the outdoor space can reflect, support, and stretch those same investigations. Picture a corner of the playground with buckets, tubes, and wheels set up because a class is exploring transportation. Or a nature table under a tree that evolves as a class dives deeper into a study of habitats. The space becomes another Reggio-inspired environment, fluid, interactive, and alive with possibility. Now, shift your view to the modern foreign language classroom. Traditionally, these lessons are more structured, often disconnected from the inquiry-led learning happening elsewhere. But what if they weren't? Imagine walking into an MFL room that's transformed to reflect what children are already exploring. If a class is investigating buildings, the MFL teacher might set up a small world city in French or Spanish, complete with labeled props and building vocabulary integrated through play. Children aren't just learning words, they're using them in meaningful, imaginative ways. The MFL planner helps bring that to life. Teachers align propagations with EYFS milestones and CFR benchmarks, embedding the language into playful exploration. It's no longer about isolated vocabulary lists. It's about children living the language through inquiry. And just like the rest of the framework, there's room for the MFL teachers to launch their own inquiries too, still grounded in the Reggio principles of curiosity, connection, and collaboration. This framework isn't just a set of planners. It's a system for making learning visible, year to year, teacher to teacher. There's a dual documentation process, a detailed class-level planner, and a general inquiry tracker. This allows future teachers to look back, see what topics have already been explored, and either build on them or take learning in a new direction. It also helps teachers identify which students have already engaged in specific inquiries and which haven't, making planning more targeted and thoughtful. Even specialists can document their links, helping students continue their learning across subject areas and years. And from an administrator's perspective, it's a bird's-eye view of learning across the school, not just what's happening in classrooms, but how it's interconnected. At its core, this framework is about connection. It connects Reggio Emilia, EYFS, and the CFR. It connects people, teachers, students, specialists, and school leaders. And most importantly, it connects learning to the interests, languages, and environments of the children we teach. When implemented with care and collaboration, it has the power to transform a school into a true community of learners, where the curriculum lives, breathes, and grows with children at its heart. If you'd like to read the full article that inspired today's episode, visit the education blog at shalabooks.com. You'll also find images of the planners discussed today, so you can visualize how each section looks and functions in practice. And if you're designing or refining your own framework and accompanying planners, don't forget to explore Empowering the Educator Within, a guide to enabling yourself and those you serve, our book and workbook set to help you guide your journey. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep empowering the educator within.